Earth sat alone in space, forgotten by the rest of the galaxy. The aliens had looked at the small blue planet long ago and decided humans were too simple to care about. They wrote "not important" in their big space books and moved on to more exciting places. No faster spaceships, no fancy tech, just a planet full of beings who hadn't even left their own solar system properly. Alan Morris rubbed his tired eyes as he stared at his computer screen. His small office at the North American Earthquake Center felt even smaller after 3 days with barely any sleep. Strange shaking was happening all over the world, and as the top earthquake scientist, he needed to figure out why. "This doesn't make sense," he mumbled to himself, taking another sip of cold coffee. The first shakes had started in Japan, small tremors that nobody paid much attention to. Then similar shakes happened in Brazil, then Africa, then California. Now they were happening everywhere, all at the same time, like something was tapping a rhythm under the whole planet. "Diane, can you come here?" Alan called out to his friend who worked down the hall. Diane Peters walked in, her red hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. She looked as tired as Alan felt. "What's up? Found something?" Alan pointed to his screen. "Look at these patterns. Normal. Earthquakes don't do this. They don't happen at the same time all over the world. And look at the timing. The breaks between shakes are getting shorter and shorter. So what are you saying?" Diane leaned closer, squinting at the colorful lines that showed the world shaking. "I'm saying something is causing this. Something not natural." Alan's voice got quieter. "It's like the planet is waking up." Diane stared at him. "That's crazy talk." "Is it? Then explain this." Alan clicked to another screen showing perfectly timed shakes happening across 6 continents. "Whatever this is, it's following a pattern, and it's speeding up." Across the ocean in London, Dr. Sam Baker was having a very bad day. As head of the European Space Agency's monitoring division, he was looking at strange energy readings that made no scientific sense. "Run the tests again," he told his team for the 3rd time. But the results came back the same. Something was disturbing Earth's upper atmosphere, creating energy waves that matched exactly with the worldwide earthquakes. Sam reached for his secure phone. "Get me the American Pentagon. Then I need to talk to that earthquake guy, Morris." Meanwhile, high above Earth, Commander Susan Kelly floated in the International Space Station, pointing a powerful camera at the Pacific Ocean. NASA had asked her to check out some weird heat spots showing up on their satellites. "That can't be right," she whispered as she looked through the viewfinder. The ocean seemed to have giant shapes under it, perfect squares and circles that stretched for miles. As she watched, parts of the shapes began to glow with a blue light. With a steady hand that didn't match her racing heart, she pressed her radio button. "Houston, I'm seeing structures under the Pacific. They're huge, they're geometric, and they're not natural. We didn't build these." Susan took photos as fast as she could. The shapes were lighting up in sequence like they were talking to each other. By the next morning, armies around the world were getting ready for something. Nobody knew what. The ground kept shaking stronger, and now strange energy readings were popping up everywhere. In Washington, D.C., important people in dark suits rushed into the president's emergency room. President Laura Garcia looked tired but focused as she entered. She had been woken up at 3 a.m. with news too important to wait until morning. "Give me the simple version," she said, sitting down at the big table. General Frank Wilson stood up. He was an old military man who rarely showed fear, but today his hands shook slightly as he held his papers. "Madam President, we believe there are man-made, no, not even man-made, structures activating under our oceans and continents. They've been there a very long time sleeping, and now they're waking up." The room got so quiet you could hear the air conditioning hum. "Alien?" the president asked simply. "Yes, ma'am," the general answered. "Based on their size and the tech we're detecting, they are definitely not human-made. Some of these structures go miles deep into the Earth's crust. They could have been there for thousands of years. And they're all turning on now?" "Why?" she asked. The science advisor spoke up. "We think they're responding to something. Maybe a signal from space. These devices seem to be creating some kind of network around the planet." A young woman from the space agency raised her hand nervously. Ma'am, we're detecting unusual movement at the edge of our solar system. Several large objects are approaching at speeds we can't explain with our current understanding of physics. President Garcia looked around the room. So you're telling me that ancient alien machines hidden under our planet are waking up, and, at the same time, something is coming from deep space? That's exactly what we're saying, the general confirmed. The president took a deep breath. Get me all the world leaders on secure video, and someone find me the top civilian experts on whatever this is. In his small office, Alan Morris's phone rang. The caller ID said U.S. government. Hello? He answered. Dr. Morris, this is the president's office. We need you in Washington. Now. What the humans didn't know was that Earth had never really been forgotten. Their planet had been specially prepared long ago, hidden away as a secret safe place by a civilization far older than human history. Their world had been seeded with sleeping machines ready to wake up if they were ever needed. And now, after sleeping for thousands of years, those ancient machines were starting to run their activation program. Far out in the dark space between stars, something was moving toward Earth. And soon humans would learn their true place in the galaxy. The forgotten world was about to be remembered. The big shakes hit hardest on a Tuesday morning. Cities by the oceans reported huge waves as giant structures began to rise from the deep water. From the deepest parts of the Pacific to the middle of the Atlantic, massive towers broke through the water's surface. Each tower looked the same, tall, shiny metal spires that seemed to swallow light instead of bouncing it back. In New York City, thousands of people gathered along the Hudson River. They held up their phones, trying to record a huge structure that was coming up from the water. Police officers tried to keep people back, but more and more scared folks pushed forward to see. Move back. Everyone move back, shouted a police officer, his voice nearly lost in the noise of the crowd. Natalie Carter, who taught science at a high school in Brooklyn, pushed her way through the crowd. While others backed away in fear, she moved closer, curious about what she was seeing. The giant tower rising from the water looked like nothing humans had ever built. A twisting spire made of what looked like liquid metal, always moving but somehow keeping its shape. It's beautiful, she said quietly, not knowing that a TV news crew was filming her. By lunchtime, Natalie's face and words were on TV screens all around the world. Without meaning to, she had become a symbol of bravery during humanity's first meeting with something not from Earth. At the Pentagon, the U.S. military had quickly set up a new center called the Anomaly Response Center. Dr. Kevin Price pushed, his glasses up on his nose as he looked at the newest information on his computer. These towers seem to be giant antennas, he told the room full of military generals and scientists. They're sending signals into deep space, but they're also making a network around our planet. It's like they're telling someone that we're here. Telling who? Asked General Wilson, his face red with worry. Before Kevin could answer, a young woman named Lisa Brown ran into the room. She worked with the communications team, listening for any unusual signals. Sir, we're getting an answer, Lisa shouted out of breath from running. Something out there is responding to the signal. All around the world, TV screens, computers, phones, and radios suddenly showed the same message. The strange thing was, everyone saw the message in their own language. Earth found, safe place plan now working. Rescue ships coming. Arrival, 14 days. Up in space, Commander Susan Kelly and her crew on the International Space Station had the best view when the first ships appeared at the edge of our solar system. They were huge vessels, bigger than anything humans had ever imagined. They moved incredibly fast toward Earth. Look at that, said Susan, her face pressed against the window. Those ships are massive. They're coming to save us, said her crewmate John Baker as they watched the ships getting closer. But save us from what? They got their answer 3 days later, when the first ships with people from other worlds landed on Earth. These ships carried survivors from a huge war that had been fought across the galaxy for hundreds of years, a war that humans knew nothing about until now. World leaders quickly gathered at the United Nations building in New York. The first visitor from another world stood before them. My name is Ambassador Zara, said the alien. Her skin was almost see-through and changed colors as she talked through a small device that translated her words. I represent the coalition of free worlds. Zara didn't look human. She had 2 arms and 2 legs like humans, but her head was shaped differently, with large eyes that didn't blink and no visible nose. Her fingers were long and thin, with 1 extra finger on each hand. Your world was hidden on purpose, Zara explained. Our ancestors put special technology under your oceans and continents, then removed Earth from all star maps. Earth was meant to be our final safe place if everything else failed. And has everything else failed? Asked President Garcia, trying to hide how nervous she felt. Zara's skin turned dark blue, which the humans would later learn meant deep sadness. The enemy has destroyed 17 planets where people lived in just the last month. We are losing. The war. The forgotten worlds, planets like yours that were hidden, are our last hope. While Zara talked, the ancient machines buried under Earth's oceans and lands kept turning on. They created an energy shield that wrapped around the whole planet like a protective bubble. These machines had been planted long ago by a civilization that knew they might someday face destruction. In Brooklyn, Natalie Carter stood on the roof of her apartment building, watching the shield form above her city. It looked like a thin, clear dome that bent the sunlight into rainbow colors across the buildings. She thought about her students and what this new world would mean for them. The science lessons she had planned to teach next month suddenly seemed silly in a world where humans had just learned they weren't alone in the universe. Her phone rang with a number she didn't recognize. "Hello?" she answered. "Ms. Carter? This is Dr. Kevin Price from the Pentagon." The voice sounded tired but urgent. "We need people who can talk to the public about what's happening. Your video from yesterday. People are listening to you. They trust you. We need your help." Natalie kept looking up at the shield and watched as strange-looking ships came down through special openings in the shield. "I'm just a high school science teacher, Dr. Price. I don't know anything about aliens or space wars. Neither does anyone else on this planet," Kevin said with a small laugh that had no humor in it. "But we're all going to have to learn really quickly." Natalie took a deep breath. "What do you need me to do?" "Come to Washington. Today, if possible. We're gathering people who can help explain what's happening to the public without causing panic." As she packed a small bag, Natalie turned on the TV. Every channel showed the same scenes: alien ships landing in fields, on beaches, and in city parks. The visitors looked different from each other. Some had many arms, others looked almost human, and some didn't look like any life form humans had imagined. At the White House, President Garcia was meeting with her closest advisors and military leaders. "How do we know we can trust them?" asked the Secretary of Defense. "This could be an invasion disguised as a rescue." The president looked at the latest reports. "The shield they've activated is protecting us, not containing us, and their ships are mostly carrying families, children, the elderly, not soldiers. I think they're telling the truth about being refugees." Outside, regular people watched the skies with a mixture of fear and wonder. Some panicked and tried to leave cities, creating traffic jams. Others gathered in churches, mosques, and temples to pray. Many just stood outside, watching the shield shimmer above them and the alien ships descend. For the first time in human history, all the countries of Earth faced the same situation together. Old enemies put aside their fights as they realized how small their differences were compared to the gap between humans and their new visitors. The galaxy had been at war for centuries, and now that war had found Earth, a planet that had been hidden away as a last resort, a final sanctuary. The machines buried under the oceans and continents thousands of years ago were now fully awake, creating the protective shield that had kept the planet safe, while the ancient engineers waited to see if they would ever need to return. Humanity had just taken its first real step into a much larger universe, and it wasn't at all what anyone had expected. 6 months after the aliens first came to Earth, the world had changed in amazing ways. The visitors, who called themselves the Coalition, shared their technology with humans. This made Earth advance by hundreds of years in just a few months. Cities now had tall, shiny buildings where humans and alien refugees lived and worked together, all protected by the growing energy shield around the planet. In what used to be empty farmland in Illinois, the military had built a new training center called the Joint Defense Academy. This was where humans learned how to use coalition weapons and spaceships. Pete Johnson, who used to be a Marine sergeant, now led a team of both human and alien pilots. The targeting system connects to your mind, explained his alien teacher, a friendly being named Krex who had 6 arms. You think about firing and the weapon fires. Pete nodded, trying to focus on the simulator in front of him. After weeks of practice, he was getting better at using the strange controls, but he still worried about when he would need to use these skills in a real battle. That day came sooner than anyone hoped. At the moon base, which humans had built with coalition help, Dr. Olivia Martinez was the first to spot trouble on her radar screens. Unlike the smooth, flowing shapes of coalition ships, these new vessels looked sharp and dangerous, black, angular shapes cutting through space like knives. Enemy ships detected, she reported, keeping her voice calm even though her heart was racing. More ships than the coalition warned us about. The warning spread quickly through Earth's new defense network. Within minutes, coalition and human forces were getting ready all over the world. In Washington, President Garcia met with the coalition military leaders in the new Interspecies Coordination Center, a building designed to accommodate beings of many shapes and sizes. They found us sooner than we expected, said Admiral Krell, the coalition's top military commander. His species had thick, leathery skin and 4 eyes that blinked in sequence. The enemy has made new technology that can find the hidden planets. How? Long before they get here? Asked the president. About 7 Earth hours, replied the admiral. Maybe less. All across the planet, people were told to go to underground shelters, huge safe places that had been quickly built using coalition engineering. Families grabbed what they could carry and headed to the shelters. Most people stayed calm because they had practiced these drills for months. In New York, Natalie Carter had become an important person. Her job was to explain things to the public and keep people from panicking. Now she stood in front of cameras that broadcast to shelters worldwide. This is not just their fight anymore, she told millions of viewers. Earth is our home, and today, we stand with our new friends to defend it. The shield will hold. But in a private meeting room, Kevin Price was hearing worse news. Coalition scientists had found that the enemy had a new weapon, something that could break through the ancient shield technology. The shield might fail, Kevin told the military leaders. We need a backup plan. Pete Johnson and his pilots were that backup plan. As the enemy fleet got closer, they prepared to launch in hybrid fighter ships. Coalition technology changed to work with human bodies. I never thought I'd be fighting aliens in space, said Carl Brown, Pete's wingman and friend. Just remember your training, Pete said, trying to sound confident, and stay in formation. As the enemy ships entered our solar system, humans saw for the first time the force that had driven the coalition to run away and hide on Earth. Enemy ships were huge, dark metal machines with weapons that could destroy entire countries. The shield flickered when the first attacks hit, energy weapons that seemed to bend space itself where they hit. On the ground, people looked up to see cracks forming in the shield they had thought would protect them completely. In space, Pete led his squadron through the defensive line. Remember, we just need to buy time for the ground teams to fix the shield generators, he reminded his pilots. What followed was humanity's first real space battle, a desperate fight against an enemy that seemed unstoppable. Coalition technology gave humans a fighting chance, but it was human creativity that would make the difference. As parts of the shield began to fail, Olivia Martinez on the moon base noticed something important about the enemy attacks. They're hitting the same spots over and over, she reported to Kevin Price. They know exactly where the weak points are. Kevin understood right away what this meant. Someone must have told them. Someone from the coalition must be working with the enemy. As this idea spread through the command centers, people began to look at their alien allies with suspicion. But during a battle, there was no time to figure out who might be a traitor. General Wilson called an emergency meeting with President Garcia. Ma'am, we need to consider evacuating key personnel to the backup shelters. The shield is failing faster than we expected. The president shook her head. I'm not running away. We make our stand here with everyone else. On the front lines, Pete's squadron was taking heavy losses. The enemy ships were faster and more powerful than anything they had trained against. They're breaking through Sector 7, shouted Carl over the radio. We can't hold them. Pete made a quick decision. All pilots, forget the standard attack patterns. The enemy knows those tactics from fighting the coalition. Let's show them how humans fight. He led his remaining pilots in wild, unpredictable movements that confused the enemy targeting systems. By breaking every rule they had been taught, they managed to destroy 3 enemy fighters. It's working, Carl shouted. They don't know how to deal with crazy humans. But despite these small victories, the enemy was still breaking through. The first enemy ground troops landed outside Chicago, expecting to find scared primitives hiding behind alien technology. Instead, they met a mix of human and coalition defenders using unusual tactics the enemy had never seen before. These humans don't fight like the coalition, an enemy commander reported back to their main fleet. They're unpredictable. What the enemy didn't understand was humanity's greatest strength, the ability to think of new ideas under pressure. While coalition forces fought using plans they had refined over centuries of war, humans were making up new approaches on the spot. But on the ground, the situation was getting worse. Enemy forces had landed on 3 continents, and their advanced weapons were overwhelming the defenders. The shield network was failing piece by piece as the enemy systematically destroyed the ancient generators. In the main coalition command center under the Rocky Mountains, Kevin Price showed a desperate plan to Admiral Krell and President Garcia. The shield is designed to keep things out, he explained, pointing to diagrams on a glowing display. But we can reverse how it works, making it pull things in instead of pushing them away. That would destroy everything near the shield, objected Admiral Krell, including the enemy forces, but also us. Not if we focus it, argued Kevin. We can create a targeted gravity hole that will only pull in the enemy ships. The plan was risky and untested, exactly the kind of desperate idea that showed how humans think. After a short discussion, both leaders approved the plan. As preparations began, Natalie Carter was asked to coordinate the massive civilian effort needed to change how the shield generators worked. Thousands of volunteers worked with Coalition, engineers following her clear instructions broadcast from the command center. From her position on the moon base, Olivia Martinez tracked the positions of enemy ships, sending coordinates to the defenders. She was also the first to notice something strange. Some enemy vessels were trying to escape the solar system. They know what we're trying to do, she reported. On Earth, the final battle for humanity's survival was about to begin. When humans saw enemy warships coming down through Earth's clouds, something deep and ancient woke up inside them. Throughout all of human history, people had only fought against other humans. Now, faced with enemies from another world who wanted to destroy everything, humans found a new kind of unity. Old enemies became allies, and all of Earth stood together. When the first enemy soldiers landed outside Chicago, they expected to find weak primitives hiding behind borrowed technology. Instead, they met resistance that mixed coalition weapons with human fighting skills that no one had seen before. These humans are learning too fast, an enemy commander reported back to their main fleet. They're using our own tactics against us, but changing them in ways we don't expect. What the enemy failed to understand was humanity's greatest strength, the ability to make up new solutions under pressure. While coalition forces fought using battle plans worked out over hundreds of years of war, humans were inventing new approaches, on the spot. In the skies above North America, Pete Johnson's squadron had lost many pilots but managed to disable 2 enemy destroyer ships by using crazy attack patterns that confused the enemy targeting computers. They expect us to fight like the coalition, Pete explained to his remaining pilots over the radio. So we do the opposite of what they expect. On the ground, things looked bad. Enemy forces had landed in North America, Europe, and Asia. Their advanced weapons were overwhelming the defenders. The shield network was failing piece by piece as the enemy systematically destroyed the ancient generators that powered it. At the main command center under the Rocky Mountains, Kevin Price showed the final details of his desperate plan to Admiral Krell and President Garcia. The shield is designed to push things away, he explained, pointing to the diagram on the screen. But if we change how the remaining generators work, we can make it pull things in instead. That would create a black hole, objected Admiral Krell, using the human term he had learned. It would destroy the enemy forces, but us too. Not if we control it carefully, argued Kevin. We can create a targeted gravity pull that will only affect the enemy ships. The plan was risky and had never been tried. Exactly the kind of desperate idea that showed human thinking at its best. After a short discussion, both leaders approved the plan. As preparations began, Natalie Carter coordinated the massive civilian effort needed to change how the shield generators worked. Thousands of volunteers worked alongside coalition engineers, following her clear instructions broadcast from the command center. Each generator must be adjusted precisely, she explained to team leaders worldwide. The timing has to be perfect, or this could go very wrong. From her position on the moon base, Olivia Martinez used special instruments to track the positions of enemy ships, sending coordinates to the defenders. She was also the first to notice something strange. Some enemy vessels were trying to leave the solar system. They know what we're trying to do, she reported to command. As the shield change was almost ready, enemy forces launched a desperate attack on the main command center. Coalition guards tried to stop them but had to fall back, leaving human defenders as the last protection. In the chaos of close quarters fighting that followed, President Garcia herself picked up a coalition energy weapon, defending the command center alongside her security team. Videos of Earth's leader fighting with a gun in hand spread quickly through communication channels, becoming a powerful symbol of humanity's refusal to give up. Generators at 90% ready, reported Natalie from her station. 4 minutes until we can activate. Outside the command center, Pete Johnson had crash-landed his damaged fighter and was leading a mixed group of human and coalition survivors in a defensive action against advancing enemy forces. We just need to hold them off for a few more minutes, he shouted over the noise of weapon fire. As the enemy closed in from multiple directions, Kevin Price finished the activation sequence for the changed shield. This will either save the planet or tear it apart, he muttered to himself. That's what makes it interesting, replied Admiral Krell, showing a surprising appreciation for human daring. When the activation signal went out, the effect was immediate and amazing. The remaining shield generators pulsed with blinding energy, creating visible waves that came together above the planet. Where those waves met, space itself seemed to fold inward, creating a swirling vortex that began to pull in the enemy ships. It's working, exclaimed Olivia from her position on the moon. Their fleet is being pulled into the vortex. One by one, the massive enemy warships were caught in the pull of the artificial gravity well. Some tried to escape, their engines burning at full power. But the vortex's pull only grew stronger as more ships were absorbed. The enemy ground forces left on Earth suddenly found themselves cut off with no way to escape. When the last enemy ship disappeared into the collapsing vortex, Kevin triggered the shutdown sequence. The swirling black hole compressed to a point of brilliant light, then vanished with a final pulse that temporarily knocked out electronic systems worldwide. Info. The aftermath, humans and coalition members came out of shelters and defensive positions to see their damaged but surviving world. The enemy had been driven away, not by the ancient technology alone, but by the unexpected partnership between coalition experience and human creativity. At a ceremony 1 month later, Admiral Krell spoke to people all around the world. For hundreds of years, the coalition has been running across the galaxy just trying to survive. On 17 worlds before Earth, we failed. But here, something changed. The Admiral's words were translated perfectly for everyone to understand. Here, we found not just another species to save, but one that saved us in return. President Garcia stepped forward to stand beside the alien commander. Earth was forgotten by the galaxy for a long time. Now they'll remember us for a different reason. As rebuilding began, the partnership between humans and coalition refugees grew stronger. Earth was changing into something new, a world that combined human creativity with the advanced knowledge of their alien allies. In Chicago, which was being rebuilt around an enemy ship crash site, Pete Johnson had started training the next generation of defense pilots, humans and aliens learning from each other's strengths. At the new Earth Coalition Science Academy, Kevin Price and Olivia Martinez led research teams adapting the SHIELD technology for peaceful uses, developing new energy sources and transportation systems. And in classrooms around the world, Natalie Carter's education programs help children understand their new place in a much larger universe. To these children, alien classmates weren't strange or scary. They were simply friends with different backgrounds. The ancient machines buried beneath Earth's surface had done their job, waking up just in time to alert humanity to its role in a galactic war. But it was humanity itself that had transformed from a forgotten species to a key force in reshaping the galaxy's future. As coalition ships set out from Earth to reclaim lost worlds, each carried human crews alongside alien allies, a new partnership, created in battle and strengthened by shared purpose. Humanity had been forgotten by the stars until their world suddenly shook. Now the galaxy would forever remember the day Earth woke up,